7 years. Dead by Daylight has been around for almost 7 years, and it's still going strong. Even stranger is that there's no end in sight. The game is averaging 33,000 players at a time on Steam, and that doesn't even factor in the extremely large combined markets of Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and Epic, and mobile, if you want to count it. And here's the thing. Dead by Daylight is not only doing well from a player count standpoint, but also from a balance standpoint. While there will always be people who laugh at somebody calling the game balanced, I'll die on the hill that the game's in a relatively good place. Balancing an asymmetrical game is difficult, and the devs have done an extremely admirable job, I think. There's still things to fix, but there will always be things to fix. But players are quick to forget how things were in the past. If I could remind you about how Hag used to be, how Trapper used to be, Forever Freddy, permanently breaking hooks, insta-heal syringes, brand new parts that instantly popped gens, uncounterable face camping, guaranteed fast vaults, perma-mend Legion, PTB Ghostface, no in-game collapse, pre-rework Spirit, hatch escapes that get the whole team out just because they had a key, hatch standoffs, the OG Ironworks of Misery, and like a million other things. I know people like to complain about the current state of the game, no matter what game and no matter what state it's in, but right now, Dead by Daylight's in a pretty good place. You know, that being said, if they did decide to, I don't know, just like take Eruption and Dead Hard and maybe hit the delete button, I wouldn't be mad at that. But again, it's nitpicking. It's nitpicking. Things are good overall. What's crazy about the current state of gaming is that Dead by Daylight has been going strong for almost 7 years now, but it's not alone. Where games used to largely die off within a few years of release, if not a few months of release, the whole games as a service model has led to this unprecedented longevity that we haven't seen before. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this just so I can kind of make my point so I'm not just saying things. So CSGO, you know CSGO, it's the funny knife game. It came out in August of 2012. That game is 10 years old, going on 11. Minecraft. We all know Minecraft. You've played it, I've played it, even your grandparents have probably played it. It came out in 2011, 11 years old. Grand Theft Auto 5, I remember that one coming out. I was in high school at the time. GTA 5 came out September of 2013. It's 9 years old now, and its online mode is still crazy populated. League of Legends, I mean, you know League of Legends. It's one of the most popular MOBAs of all time. 2009, October of 2009. It's a 13-year-old game. Even a more recent one, how about Fortnite? Fortnite came out in July of 2017. This game is 5 years old, and for most of that lifespan, it has not just been popular, it's been the game. It has been the most popular game on the market, and I don't see it. I honestly, Fortnite's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think that's why you've seen so much of the Fortnite hate die off recently, because people are realizing, okay, this is just here now. So 5 powerful years for Fortnite. And again, Dead by Daylight, 7 years. We were coming up on the 7th year anniversary. That's crazy to me. That is so uncommon in gaming. Sure, before anyone says it, yes, you've always had games that tend to live a little longer than most. You think about how, Super Smash Bros. Which one was it? Brawl, that I think is still used in like all of the tournaments and all that. Yeah, you get these games, but that's not normal. Most of the time, the way it used to be, games would be released, they'd be popular, and again, within a decade, nobody was playing them. But now, it seems like these game companies are shooting for at least a decade. Again, CSGO, 10 years, Minecraft, 11 years, GTA 5, 9 years, League, 13 years, DBD and Fortnite are coming up on it, Fortnite's halfway there, and DBD's, getting dangerously close. We live in a new era of gaming, and for better or for worse, games are made to be played for a long time, and they have a pretty specific model to do this. They lure you in with low prices, or in many cases, no prices, and then they milk you dry for a decade plus, because you can't help but buy the latest outfit that shows just a smidge more of midriff or underboob than the last one did. And again, this is not at all unique to Behavior Interactive and Dead by Daylight. They engage in these practices, yes, but they did not start the trend. They just ran with it. And look, no hate. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong for gaming. I've heard people defend how things used to be, and I've heard people defend how things are now. And as a filthy moderate fence sitter, a trait that makes me very popular in these hyperbolic times, I assure you, I see merit in both arguments. At some point, I'd love to break down the pros and cons of the two systems, but it would really derail this video if we got into all of that now. For the sake of this video, all I need you to know is that this isn't your grandpappy's gaming industry anymore, and games don't quite go quietly into that long night like they used to. Even amongst the modern gaming giants, I feel like DBD is kind of uniquely situated to carry on for a long time. The Battle Royale games, they're always going to try to siphon players from one another, and the MOBA scene is always going to just be a freaking bloodbath. But when it comes to asymmetrical horror, Dead by Daylight stands alone at the top of the mountain. That's not to say that DBD is better than Fortnite or League of Legends or anything like that, only to say that when it comes to DBD, there's not a worthy challenger in sight. Many games have tried, and they've all fallen victim to the same vicious cycle. The game is announced, several notable DBD content creators hype it up as the final nail in Dead by Daylight's coffin. I was guilty of that at one time. The game releases and is promptly killed because it's not Dead by Daylight. Remember, if the DBD of 2016 were released at a time where an ASIM game of DBD 2023's quality existed, Dead by Daylight would have been killed off too. I mean, why invest time and money into a brand new game that's trying to find its way and find its footing when you could just play a very similar game that's already gone through the lion's share of its growing pains? You've probably heard that the early bird gets the worm, and that's not necessarily always true.
You blew it! You had it all and you blew it!
But it definitely holds water in many cases. Of course, there are more advantages to getting there first than just having more time to work out the kinks. Sure, that's nice, but the real benefit is building that sweet brand loyalty. Because while we all like to pretend we don't let institutions dictate our lives, we kind of do. A 2023 survey found that 72% of polled consumers said that they do in fact feel loyalty to at least one brand. Putting that in terms my smooth English major brain can understand, that's almost 3 out of every 4 people. And we all know the people who care way too much about brands. I'm talking about the people who will only wear one shoe brand, only buy groceries from one retailer, only drink certain brands of alcohol or soft drinks. You know the type. These are the type of people who think you are only allowed to either like football, the American version, or football, the international version, because you don't follow one of them and therefore it has to be less valid, right? Or these are the people that will think the real fans only watch WWE or AEW, but definitely not both. These are the people that fight desperately for Twitch or YouTube streaming, even though they're both kind of bad. Obviously, this has really serious implications in actually important areas too, like how Americans have created a system where you can either vote for the funny blue team, the funny red team, or the funny never going to win an election team. Our lives are largely controlled by habits, and sticking with the brands we know is definitely an extension of that. This really helps games like Dead by Daylight, because why would you get the competition and give it a serious try? You've played Dead by Daylight for years. You love Dead by Daylight, despite what you might tweet about it or, gosh forbid, post in the forums. DBD has transcended so far past regular brand loyalty that nowadays they don't even need the popular licenses like they used to. There was a time when adding Michael Myers put DBD on the map. Adding the likes of Freddy, Leatherface, and Pyramid Head put them over the top. But being put on the map and put over the top, those are both nice. But what puts DBD out of reach of its competition, it's not Halloween or Resident Evil, it's Dead by Daylight itself. The game has been popular long enough that characters like Huntress, Legion, and even, God bless his soul, the Trapper, are icons in their own right. Behavior has created a nearly unstoppable machine at this point. The name of the game is no longer innovation, it's avoiding mistakes. Just keep the gears churning smoothly and the consumers will keep paying for Oryx cells. Which brings me to the most important question of the video. What will finally kill Dead by Daylight once and for all? I know it seems kind of crazy to think about right now, but the game is getting dangerously close to being a decade old, and nothing lasts forever. Not you, not me, not DBD. Maybe plastic though. I think plastic might last forever. When it comes to the demise of Dead by Daylight, which I feel the need to remind everybody for the gazillionth time, I don't look forward to that and I don't want it. I see it playing out in one of a few ways. Perhaps the most idiotic way to kill a game, but also an entirely plausible possibility, would be to release Dead by Daylight 2. While moves like that may seem lucrative on paper, just the simple act of announcing a sequel is sometimes fuel enough to burn down a long-established empire. If they were going to do a DBD 2, they would be best off just releasing a huge update that changes the game's coding to something more sustainable and adds a few new characters and reworks. But at that point, why put the 2 in there? If it's still Dead by Daylight, just call it Dead by Daylight. We've already established the importance of brand loyalty, and playing around with that loyalty is less like running with scissors and more like full-on sprinting with a Scottish claymore. Another path to irrelevance for DBD would be as a result of some massive controversy or another. I'm not saying I think this will happen, but you never know. Crazy as it sounds today, there was a time when Blizzard was generally thought of as being the good guys in the gaming industry. My, how times change. Obviously, I don't predict that this will happen, but again, you never know. It's always a bombshell when some terrible controversy breaks out, and more often than not, the general public wasn't all that aware of half that was going on. This one's a bummer to even think about, so I won't spend any more time on it, but I felt like I had to say that yes, a giant scandal would probably potentially kill the game. The last, and most realistic way that DBD might eventually die off is the same thing that kills most popular things. It fades over time. Culture is a river, one that's always flowing and never stopping to remain the same for even but a moment. In time, all that is becomes that which was. This applies to DBD just as much as anything else. Eventually, the player base will move on, whether that's the next year or maybe the next 20 years. Intellectual properties may have a habit of outliving organic beings, but they too must eventually face the Reaper. That's how I see DBD eventually going down. Just a slow trickle until the player base isn't large enough to justify keeping the servers up. That's how I see most of the popular games I've talked about in this video dying, actually. Nothing erodes material quite like the sands of time, and I think we'll see that come to fruition. Of course, I'm not a pessimist, and I don't mean to insinuate that DBD's reign of supremacy is coming to an end anytime soon. Nor should it. If I had to predict the future, which is something no man can actually do to any reliable degree, I would say we have, in the least, 3 more good years of Dead by Daylight. The devs are close enough to the decade mark that I really can't see a world in which they mess this up. Hell, they could stop adding content to the game, cold turkey, right now, and I think the player count would still be around 25k daily on Steam, or not daily, at a time on Steam in 2026. Dead by Daylight is a juggernaut, and those typically can't be killed, they just have to be left to die. Of course, I'll take it a step further and say that I think DBD will still be going strong long after 2026. Because of the game's unique formula and eclectic player base, I expect the game to make it to the 15-year mark. After that, I couldn't tell ya. Predicting something so specific so far into the future is actually impossible, so I'll stop pretending. But the thing is, right now, I don't want to think about the end. I don't want to think about potential scandals or boneheaded marketing decisions or that ever-flowing river. All I want to do is think about Dead by Daylight and what a journey it's been so far. I have gotten so much enjoyment out of this game in the 5 or so years that I've played it, and I'm immensely grateful for what the devs and community have given me. I have made friends, I have made memories, I have had a great time. I wouldn't go as far as to call Dead by Daylight my favorite game of all time, but it may be the most important to me. I feel like there are plenty of other people who can relate. Our actual favorites may be games like Ocarina of Time, New Vegas, or whatever classic really butters your biscuit. But here's the thing. I haven't spent 3,000 plus hours playing those games. I've spent those hours playing as Clown and Jeff, as Nimi and Zarina. Dead by Daylight feels special because it is special. This game has struck a unique chord with a large number of players, and as such, it has not only secured a powerful legacy, but it has also enjoyed shocking longevity. The river flows on. For the time being, so too does Dead by Daylight. I've been Das Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my